Let's be honest. We all do things that, when you think about it, make absolutely no sense, right? Things we know aren't good for us, things that go against our own goals. It's a mystery we all deal with. So today we're going to dive into one of the most famous and, yeah, controversial explanations for why our brains are just so wonderfully weird.
I mean, have you ever done something where, even as you were doing it, a little voice in your head was screaming, "This is a terrible idea"? Or maybe something just pops out of your mouth and you're left thinking, where did that come from? If you're nodding along, don't worry, you're not alone. It's kind of what being human is all about.
Okay, picture this, a classic dilemma. You're staring at two options, a piece of chocolate cake and a nice healthy apple. Your rational brain is going, dude, pick the fruit, it's good for you. But another part of your brain, a much louder part, is screaming, chocolate, now! So you grab the chocolate, you enjoy it for all of 3 seconds, and then you spend the next hour feeling guilty. What is that all about? Why is there this constant battle inside our own heads?
Or how about this one? A slightly more dramatic example. A moment that's become legendary in pop culture. It seems like just a simple, disastrous mistake, right? A slip of the tongue? But what if it wasn't random at all? What if it was a message, bubbling up from somewhere way deep down in your mind?
So yeah, what is going on here? To even begin to unravel this mystery of our own strange behavior, we've got to go back in time, back to the turn of the 20th century, to meet the man who first tried to draw a map of all the hidden corners of our minds. His name, of course, was Sigmund Freud. And whether you love him or hate him, his ideas completely changed the way we think about ourselves.
Freud's biggest, most game-changing idea was this. The part of your mind that you're actually aware of, that's just the teeny tiny tip of the iceberg. The real action, he said, all the important stuff, is happening way down below the surface, in a vast, hidden place he called the unconscious.
And this is the heart of what we now call psychodynamic theory. It really boils down to two huge ideas. First, most of what truly drives you, your desires, your fears, your motivations, is happening completely outside of your awareness. And second, your experiences as a little kid are absolutely critical in shaping the adult you grow up to be. Basically, the weird thing you did today might have its roots in something that happened when you were 5.
So let's break down this mental iceberg. Freud called it his topographic model. Right at the top, sticking out of the water, is your conscious mind. That's whatever you're thinking about this very second. Just below the surface is the preconscious. This is stuff you're not thinking about but you easily could, like, what you had for dinner last night. But then, there's the massive, deep, dark part of the iceberg way underwater. That's the unconscious. And according to Freud, this is where we lock up all the stuff we just can't deal with. All those forbidden wishes, primal fears, and aggressive urges. It's all down there, locked away. Okay, so if the iceberg is the map of your mind, who's actually driving the car? Well, Freud say that your personality isn't just one thing. It's more like a constant chaotic battle between 3 very different characters living inside your head.
All right, let's meet the players. First up, you've got the id. The id is basically your inner toddler. It runs on pure instinct and pleasure. It wants what it wants, and it wants it right now. Then on the other side, you have the superego. Think of this as your inner parent or judge. It's the voice of society, all the shoulds and shouldn'ts you've learned your whole life, and caught right in the middle, playing referee, is the ego. The ego is your rational self, the part that tries to give the id what it wants, but in a realistic way that won't get you yelled at by the superego. It's a tough job.
Freud had this fantastic analogy for this struggle. He said the ego's relationship with the id is like a rider on a really, really powerful horse. The rider, that's our logical ego, is trying to steer. But the horse, our primal, instinct-driven id, has all the raw power. And a lot of the time, the best the poor rider can do is just hang on for dear life and try to guide the horse where it was already planning on going anyway.
So if all of this drama is happening deep in our unconscious, how do we ever even know it's there? Well, Freud believed it doesn't always stay hidden. It leaks out. It seeps into our everyday lives in some pretty fascinating and often really funny ways.
And that brings us to the famous Freudian slip. The technical term is parapraxis, but nobody calls it that. It's any little mistake, saying the wrong word, forgetting a name, even a clumsy action that accidentally reveals what's really on your mind. It's like a glitch in the matrix of your brain that lets the unconscious speak its truth for a split second.
And oh man, the examples can be pretty telling and sometimes hilarious. A doctor, maybe a little stressed, accidentally saying erection instead of injection.
Or maybe you're typing an email to a coworker you secretly can't stand, and you write, "I already hate lunch," instead of "I already ate lunch." Whoops. Even something like forgetting the name of the movie Terminator right when you're super anxious about being, well, terminated from your job. For Freud, these are never random mistakes. They are clues.
Slips are one thing, right? They're little leaks. But sometimes that internal conflict between what we want and what we think is right creates a ton of anxiety. And to handle that stress, our ego has a whole other toolbox full of much more sophisticated tricks. They're called defense mechanisms.
These are basically mental strategies our brain uses, usually without us even realizing it, to protect us from feeling bad. And some are healthier than others. Take sublimation. That's when you take an unacceptable impulse, like aggression, and channel it into something productive, like becoming a star athlete. Or suppression. That's just consciously deciding, you know what, I can't deal with this right now, I'll worry about that exam tomorrow. And a personal favorite, humor. Making a joke about a super stressful situation, that's actually a high-level defense mechanism that helps you and everyone around you feel better. Okay, so this is all a fascinating, dramatic story about what's going on inside our skulls. But here's the billion-dollar question. Is any of it actually true? Is it science? Well, this is where the theory gets put on trial.
One of the sharpest critiques ever came from a philosopher of science named Karl Popper, and he made a really powerful point. He argued that for any theory to be considered scientific, there has to be some way, at least in principle, to prove it wrong. He called this falsifiability. And Popper basically said, hey Freud, your theories, you can't falsify them.
Let me show you what he meant. Look at the idea on the left. That's a falsifiable or testable idea. It makes a clear prediction. A lifelong honest guy won't suddenly start stealing. If he does steal, boom, the theory is proven false. Easy. Now look at the Freudian explanation on the right. If the same man steals, a psychoanalyst can say, aha, his repressed childhood desire to steal has finally broken through. But what if he doesn't steal? Well, they can just as easily say, well, of course, his superego is strong and is keeping his id in check. Do you see the problem? The theory can explain any possible outcome, and if a theory can explain everything, it really explains nothing. You can never prove it wrong.
So what's the final verdict? Well, while many of Freud's very specific ideas have been challenged or even thrown out by modern psychology, his huge central idea that forces outside of our awareness are constantly shaping our behavior, that idea is still incredibly influential. Scientific or not, it leaves us with a really compelling question. The next time you do something weird, or make a strange choice, or have a slip of the tongue, maybe just stop for a second and ask yourself, what is my unconscious trying to tell me?